I want to start this video by asking a question. Have you ever been hangry? You know what I mean? Have you ever been hangry? Have you ever missed a meal or two and found yourself totally on edge, grumpy, and snapping at the people you love? Now, I'm particularly prone to becoming hangry. I could never count the amount of times I've been snappy or on edge simply because I was hungry. Now, have you ever had the opposite problem? Have you ever eaten so much food that you completely shut down, that all you can do is sit on the couch and take a nap? Thanksgiving wasn't too long ago, and I can only imagine that a lot of us just had this experience. You load up your plate 2 or 3 times, and before you know what's happening, you're so full, you feel like you need to be rolled down the hallway. Whether we eat too much or not enough, the food we consume has a pretty big impact on our attitude, on our emotions, and on our behavior. We're in this series called The Social Dilemma, and we're talking about how living in a digital age has a huge impact on our spiritual formation. Whether we realize it or not, the screens all around us are forming us. They're fighting for our attention, and they're trying to influence the type of person we become. In this video, we're going to talk about consumption, because just like the food we eat influences the way we act, the media we consume influences the person we become. Let's say it this way. If you don't control what you consume, then what you consume will control you. Now, let me be clear about something up front. This isn't one of those talks where I'm going to challenge you to delete all your social media forever, or never watch TV again, or chuck your phone in a river, or something drastic like that. It's 2023. And I realize it's unrealistic to ask middle school and high school students to totally unplug digitally. But here's the reality. Just because we can't completely unplug doesn't mean we should let our screens control us. Whether you realize it or not, your phone is not a harmless brick of technology hanging out in your pocket. The average teenager spends 8 hours and 39 minutes a day looking at a screen. That means about 50% of your waking hours are spent looking at a screen, consuming content. And remember, if you don't control what you consume, then what you consume will control you. So let me ask you a question. What are you consuming? What are you choosing to consume during your 8 hours and 39 minutes a day looking at a screen? Now, I know it's unrealistic to go from 8 hours and 39 minutes to 0, but I don't think we need to spend 9 hours a day thoughtlessly consuming content. So what are you consuming? Have you ever stopped to think about what type of music you're listening to? What do the lyrics talk about? Do they encourage the behavior and lifestyle you want for your future, or are they only about sex and drugs and alcohol? Some of you are thinking something along the lines of, come on, Jake, what's the big deal if I listen to A$AP Rocky or Drake? It's just music. But remember, if you don't control what you consume, then what you consume will control you. How could listening to hours of music that describes and encourages a lifestyle that's opposite to the way of Jesus possibly impact you positively? To be honest, it never can. What about the TVs and movies you're watching? Are the shows and movies you're watching helping you get closer to Jesus or taking you further away from him? Is watching The Office or Parks and Rec for the 13th time beneficial to your life? Maybe you're thinking, come on, Jake, I love The Office. It's hilarious, and I just watch it to relax, to give my brain a break and numb out. It's better than the other stuff I could be watching. I hear you. You're right. You could watch something a lot worse, and there's nothing wrong with relaxing. But when you've watched your 7th episode in a row, and it's 1:30 in the morning, and you've got a low-grade headache because you should be asleep, but your brain is all doped up because you just stared at a screen, are you living the abundant life that Jesus promised you? If you don't control what you consume, then what you consume will control you. What about your phone? Have you stopped to think about the ways you're using your phone? Remember, it's not a harmless brick of technology designed to make your life better. It's a machine designed to steal your attention so tech companies can sell your eyeballs to the highest bidder. For some of you, you can't get through a whole conversation with a real life person without sending a Snapchat or a text to someone who isn't even in the same zip code as you. I mean, stop and think about how ridiculous that is. We're so addicted to things like Snapchat that we've used them to replace the real thing. Snapchat is designed to help us stay connected to other people. That's what all social media is supposed to be designed for. But instead of connecting with the real life people in front of our faces, we have to stop to send a snap to someone who isn't even in the room. For most of you, you couldn't even make it through this talk without sending a pointless Snapchat or text message. That includes you, leaders. The music we listen to, the movies we watch, the time we spend on our phone is influencing who we are. It's literally changing the person we become. If we don't control what we consume, then what we consume will control us. Ephesians 5:15 tells us, "Be very careful then how you live, not as the unwise, but as the wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil." Every decision we make is casting a vote for the person we're going to become. Are we going to become wise or unwise? Are we going to become like Jesus or less like him? There's no neutral ground. There's no cruise control. We're either moving closer to eternal life or closer to eternal death. We have to be very careful how we live because the world wants us to live less like Jesus. It wants us to be numbed out and stuck in a consumer mindset. It wants us to forget that Jesus calls us to an abundant life of love, service, and sacrifice. Remember, it's 2023. I know it's unrealistic to ask you to delete social media forever, or to only listen to worship music for the rest of your life, or to never watch another TV show again. And to be honest, I don't think you should do any of those things. Social media, music, TV, movies can all be really great things, but we have to control them instead of letting them control us. So let me give you 3 applications, 3 challenges that can help you and I control what we're consuming instead of being controlled by what we consume. Number 1, set screen time limits. Now, I know this one's pretty obvious, but it's really effective if you actually do it. If you're currently spending 4 hours a day using Snapchat, then set a screen time limit for 3 hours. Maybe in a couple weeks, you'll be able to knock it down to 2 hours, and before you know it, you'll be in control of how often you use Snapchat instead of picking it up and using it brainlessly when you should be connecting with the real people all around you. Now, here's what doesn't work. Don't set a screen time passcode that you already know, right? We've all done that. We set the screen time password, and when it pops up, because we've run out of time for the day, we just punch in the code and keep on scrolling. Ask your parents or a small group leader to set the screen time code for you so that you don't have any choice but to put down your phone and interact with the world. Control what you consume. Number 2, buy an alarm clock. I'm amazed by the number of people who sleep with their phones right next to their head. I mean, think about it. When you sleep with your phone next to you, it's the last thing you look at before you go to bed, and it's the first thing you look at when you wake up. When your phone is in your bedroom, you're way more likely to stay up late scrolling or looking at stupid stuff that you know you shouldn't be looking at. And here's the number one excuse for why people leave their phone, why people won't leave their phone in the living room or downstairs or literally anywhere other than their bedroom. It's my alarm clock. Can I be honest? That is literally the stupidest excuse I've ever heard. Buy an alarm clock. They're $15 on Amazon. Problem solved. If you don't believe me, buy an alarm clock. Don't bring your phone into your bedroom for 1 week and see how much better your life is. If I'm full of crap, then you can return the alarm clock and go back to being addicted to a little box of plastic and glass made in China. Number 3, power down. All right, the first 2 challenges are easy. Setting screen time limits and buying an alarm clock are pretty simple. Powering down is a little more difficult. The challenge is this, and only try it if you're truly ready to be challenged. Power down your phone for a full 24 hours once a week. Some of you are like, what did he just say? Was that in Chinese? Power down your phone for a full 24 hours once a week? If you're in middle school or high school, this will probably work best on a Saturday. On a Friday night before you go to bed, power down your phone completely. And then on Saturday, after your new handy dandy alarm clock wakes you up, don't turn your phone back on. Spend the whole day doing anything other than looking at your phone. Go back to bed, and when you wake up on Sunday morning, turn your phone back on and go about your life. It'll be difficult. It'll feel like you're missing out on everything going on in the world. It'll feel like you're totally bored out of your mind, but I promise it will transform your relationship with technology. It's time to start controlling what we consume instead of letting what we consume control us. Set screen time limits, buy an alarm clock, and power down. If you're watching this in person, I'm going to turn it over to Spencer and Nick. I hope you guys have a great small group discussion, and I'll see you next Sunday at Bullwinkle's for our Christmas party.